To me, the action in this movie, the scale of the movie, is without question, you know, I think light years beyond what we did in the first movie. It is a far more ambitious movie. Without question, the IMAX and even the 3D of it, I think, will give viewers yet another level of, of excitement and fun to be had. But that's all kind of, no matter what the format, if there's a really compelling story and a really, emotional story, you'll still lean in and be emotional and react.
Benedict went at it like a scalpel. His performance is so precise, and the scene that I recalled that pops into my head immediately is when I call it the exposition scene, because it's like and cue Benedict's monologue, which is such, I think, like it's dangerous territory. And Benedict took this and shaped all this information, and like he all of a sudden stood up straighter, and his back was like ramrod straight, and his head would tilt in these precise angles, and it just was so much fun to watch.
We had the opportunity this time to build a set that was, contiguous, so that we were able to go from the bridge into a hallway, having seen inside the bridge, and not have to do a green screen thing or something. Continue that shot, go into that sort of plaza area, continue that beyond, and go around a corner, and there was the med. It allowed for, far greater depth in terms of, distances and walk and talks and things. And I just think it gives the ship a sense of it being, not just larger, which is kind of a fun little byproduct, but it being interconnected, so that you're not doing shots when someone enters an area, you're not just sort of catching them as they turn a corner. It may not be something that is even noticeable to a viewer, but to me it allows for that sense of reality and scale and connectivity.
JJ is obviously such an incredibly gifted director and storyteller, and I think a big part of that has to do with the emphasis that he places on humanity and character. And so I think it's what sets him apart in a lot of ways. He doesn't just do things by the book. And that's one of the things that draws me to him as an actor and also as an audience member of his projects and his stories. What Scott Chambliss is able to create is incredibly rich and multi-dimensional environments for us to play in and be supported by. The ships that he builds, actually the Enterprise, but then also like the volcano set that they built and the stuff that they just made happen out of nothing. It's just, and then Michael Kaplan, who's such a visionary and has so much integrity in his work, and really, it's all about, for us as actors, it really ultimately becomes about like fabric is the word I kind of think of. It's like, how much fabric do we have to stitch together our performances and our understanding of the world that we're in? And when you're in a sci-fi story and so much is ultimately left to the imagination, the more practical, tangible things that we have to work with, the more beneficial. And with those guys, it's really just tons and tons to work with. It's really pretty remarkable.
Scott Chambliss, who I've worked with since this show Felicity that I did, he is brilliant, and I knew would do an amazing job on this film, as he did with the first Trek we did. He blew away every expectation and just did an extraordinary job, not just designing these amazing sets, but building them in a way that actually elevated the designs.
I wanted her to kick ass. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if I'm kicking or punching something or someone. I just wanted, you know, I wanted her to sort of be a little more physical. And he literally, when I came back, he was like, "You asked and you shall receive."
You have Spock and you have Kirk. And Spock is the man of logic and cold kind of reason, and then you have Kirk, who is a man of passion and emotion, and that follows his gut, whether it's right or wrong or moral or immoral or whatever. And Kirk is also, I think at the beginning, though, he displays an incredible amount of selflessness. There's a self-serving quality to Kirk. He kind of wants to prove that he's the best, that he can get away with all this, that he can win. There's a winning quality. There's a need to win in Kirk. And the journey of these two characters, it's like neither character can exist without the other.
Kirk is the captain of the ship, but he's still that cocky guy who sort of feels like he can kind of charm and lie his way out of any situation. And what happens when you really put to the test? He's challenged at the beginning of this film by Pike, and what does that mean for him? And how far is he willing to go? The idea of, you know, all these characters at one point or another have their lives, you know, on the line, and it was a cool movie to sort of, you know, keep all these plates spinning. You've got a lot of characters you have to be, you know, servicing, and as much as it seems to be, in many ways, Kirk's movie, the secret of this film, not unlike the first movie, is it's just as much Spock's film, and Spock's story. You know, he is friends with this guy, and he's got, you know, his relationship with Uhura, but, you know, what is it like to be a friend, and when you're not completely human and you've chosen to sort of live in this more logical and less emotional way, how are you a friend? And so as much as Kirk's learning how to really be a captain and earn the chair.
Such an angel, Zoe Saldana. I mean, she's so, she's got such an openness and such a vulnerability on camera, and yet such a strength. You know, she can kick ass with the best of them, and yet she can really, really soften and open up in a way that is magnetizing, whether you're here or whether you're watching it on screen. It's got a real power to it, and she's just you know, familiar love. I love her. We've known each other for years, and it's great to come back to that kind of familiarity, you know, especially when you're working with such intimacy.
Non-stop, anxiety-driven plots that will keep your mind racing, and you'll have to really stay focused to keep up, which is great because it's never a dull moment. Extremely deep relationships, bonds that are being created, bonds that are being broken, and yet, you know, all these people have the responsibility to save the day.
I think it's like any great story. I feel, having done some of these movies now, it seems to be, it's like what makes a great story is always about selflessness. It's always about teaching, like a myth teaches people to look outside of themselves, to do unto others. JJ knows the power and the need of having fun, great looking stuff like that. But he also knows that none of that means anything. He said this, and he always says it, none of that means anything if you don't care about the people that are involved. You can spend hundreds of $millions on all sorts of effects, but the story's not going to be powerful unless people are engaged emotionally with the human beings that are going through all of these fantastical, incredible, extraordinary experiences.
The truth is that the story is a far more nuanced story. In the first film, when they were up against, you know, Nero, they were up against a guy who was just really pissed off. In this movie, they're up against a lot more and a lot more complex adversaries. So that in this film, you're, unlike the first movie, you're really questioning, what do I do in this situation? It's a little bit more of a vicarious dilemma for people watching. The first film was, it's very clear who the bad guy is. I know exactly what's going on. I know exactly what I would want to do, basically destroy the bad guy. It was a very clear-cut situation. In this movie, there's much more of, I think, a sort of psychological drama going on, or the question of where does your loyalty lie, who do you trust, once you have made that decision, how do you deal with the person you're up against? Who are you willing to ally yourself with to take action? How do the people who are your crew and family going to react to that choice? You know, it's an infinitely more kind of complex and in some ways darker story than the first movie.
The great thing about working with Chris is that we really check in with each other creatively and personally. You know, we've both gone through a lot of stuff since the first movie came out, and it's been really nice to be able to connect with him about that and bring it to our work together. You know, there is an implicit trust, and I think something that happened to both of us in this film is we both came to realize the impact that being a part of this franchise is going to have, not only in our careers, but on our lives. And, you know, it's always a blast. He's an incredibly hardworking actor. He's enormously talented. He's very serious about what he's doing, and he's enormously talented and able to bring the bravado of this character and also the complexity of this character to life in a really exciting way.
With Benedict, he did exactly the same thing with this character. He came to the table with a whole new attitude, a whole new sort of personality and background and strength. But the thing about this guy is he's such an unbelievably watchable and compelling and powerful actor. And he had a lot to do in this movie. It wasn't just about how he speaks and about, you know, his background and where he's from. He had to do a lot of physical acting and fighting and, you know, stuff that he had never really done before.
This is the kind of film that 3D was made for, was created for. It's just, it's an adventure to see all these sets and to see all these shuttles and to be in space and the stars and everybody navigating and the shooting and the aliens and everything. You want to see it in a multi-dimensional way in order for you to fully enjoy it. And so I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Spock would rather, you know, abide by the rules and even lose his own life. That makes no sense to Kirk. You know, why would you ever want to sacrifice your own life? But beyond that, you know, he looked at Spock as a friend, you know, and in fact is as much as he's upset that he's lost the ship, he's actually even more hurt that Spock doesn't get that. He thought they were friends, and Spock, you know, doesn't understand why Kirk would save him. So there's kind of a sweet, you know, sort of story of an evolving friendship between Kirk and Spock as well.
Spock is such a committed person that he's willing to always give up his life for his team, for what he believes in, and I don't think that's starting to sit well with Uhura, because she definitely would like to feel, like anybody that's in love would like to feel, that she probably would have some kind of relevance in his psyche that would compel him to go, wait a minute, let me think about, let me recoup myself, and he just doesn't. So obviously that causes her to question, why is she, you know, with him, and what is it about Spock that she's, you know, she's always been taken by, and that's that I was really happy with that continuation of the relationship, of their relationship.
Pike, who is his father figure, who essentially got him into, you know, convinced him to join Starfleet to begin with, Pike reprimands him and takes away the ship from him. And he essentially tells him that he is, you know, he doesn't respect the chair. He doesn't understand, you know, how his actions will get his whole crew killed one day. Kirk doesn't understand what he's talking about, you know, and Pike basically says that there's greatness in him, but there's just no humility. And he just can't see past himself, that Kirk sort of feels that he's above the rules in some way. And that is completely in line with his sort of attitude. I mean, the fact that this is a guy who lied to pass a test that no one else had passed before, you know, in his history, this is consistent with this kind of personality. And I think that for Kirk, he is haunted by this comment that Pike makes about him. The great thing about Peter is he's just got great instincts, and he's just, when he gets comfortable with the mechanics of what he's doing, then he can forget the mechanics. And he is incredible to watch. He's wonderful to sort of see evolve over, a scene, and could not be a more lovely guy. We were the luckiest to get him.
Zach is such a classy man, by nature. And then Spock was always known for being so gracious. Leonard Nimoy really created a very gracious Vulcan. And Zach, it's sort of like the ring just fit, so easily.
It's a real honor, I think, for me to inhabit a character who is so widely regarded as a beacon of intelligence and logic and compassion. I think Spock teaches me every time I come into contact with him, whether it's through playing him or through my interactions with Leonard, that integrity is one of the things that is most important. I think as we get older, as we go through our lives, and I think being a part of the Star Trek franchise, and particularly under JJ's direction, has taught me a lot about integrity and a lot about its value, and a lot about its power, and also to laugh, and also to know that it's, at the end of the day, hopefully people enjoy what we're making.
I think she's coming to terms, finally, that this is a very stressful, high-strung profession that she's in. And, I think the biggest question that popped up for me, and I guess for Uhura as well, is, do I have what it takes to sacrifice my life for my team, for my people, for my ship, for the cause, for the principles that I believe in? That to me was sort of what resonated the most about this story, about this sequel, is that you're seeing the shift of kids to adults and taking on bigger responsibilities and accepting the path they each have chosen.
Shooting this movie was by far the most fun and challenging and exciting and kind of unexpected experience that I've had. I've been very, very lucky to work with amazing crews and incredible actors, but for some reason this movie, it felt simultaneously really comfortable having all these people that were friends and working with all of them again, crew and cast alike, but also knowing that we were all going through a kind of insane campaign and being tested every day on every level to do better. It was really challenging, but I will miss everyone even more than I did on the first one, because we got to do it again and we got to realize, everyone really is that good at what they do, and I couldn't feel luckier to get to work with those people.